get up to speak? Hearing none, we'll run down to item number 3. Councilman, got anything really quick? Councilman Brennan?
Just to, I guess this would probably be my time to address Chris's question about the LEAP housing. As I read the paperwork, they're paying the city cash match of $4,000. So it's like we're doing the paperwork, but they're fronting the entire cost of that. That's right?
That's the 4,000?
Yes.
How about, are they paying for the grant writer?
No. I don't think.
We're doing the grant writing. We're doing all the paperwork and submitting it to the city.
To the city?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just answered that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
I wanted to hit on a couple cool things that I saw over the weekend. The library, they're doing the summer reading program right now. I thought it was really awesome for Shasta to reach out to Corbin Maxey and do that little animal educational program. So good work, Shasta. The library is also a nice place for refuge for the citizens if it's too hot. You got the AC going in there, right? Parks and Rec did their skate safety day. So seeing all these new programs makes me think that we're on the right track. I love seeing that. Daniel Dobbs Rodeo, great, give back to the community. I wore my community canvas shirt because they're beautifying downtown, the businesses, they all come together. Good stuff. And then the Arts Council has their summer concert series coming up. And then the Lions are going to do movies in the park. So we really are a community and there's so much going on. I think it's fantastic.
We'll run down to item number 4, the consent agenda. Councilman, anything you want to discuss, talk about, poll? Councilman Brennan?
There's one thing, I'm not sure of the process for this because I haven't dealt with it before, so maybe for the attorney. On the approval of minutes section for our joint city council planning, zoning commission, impact fee advisory board, and rural commission, the minutes don't say anything about there being a lack of a quorum for the impact fee advisory board, so they weren't really present. Does that need to be addressed in our minutes?
No.
At all?
No, that just means there was no meeting for them.
Even though it says that there was?
If it says that there was, maybe you could just do a note and file that there was not a meeting for them, because there did not in fact convene. But it's not really germane to the city councils. So.
Okay, sorry, thank you. That's all I had for that.
Alrighty. Anything else, council?
Mayor,
Councilman McCain?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second. Well, the motion in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy? Aye. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Going down to item number 5, old business, discussion decision on planning and zoning commission recommendation to approve the request by Cody Hunter Black for the annexation zoning to C4 of Meadows Mobile Home Park located at 1075 Air Base Road and adjacent parcels with conditions. Action item.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy?
I'd like to point out this has been a fairly lengthy process, and we appreciate the good work for Mr. Hunter, and also if we could, if Brock could give us a minute or two explanation on the process and what this actually means and where this is leading to, perhaps some of the background for it. Would that be okay with the rest of the council?
Yes, definitely.
In summary, Mr. Council, Councilman Bundy, City Council, what we did was we were tasked with Councilman McCain, who is Nick Terrific. We sat down with Mr. Hunter and we aired all of the city's concerns about any liabilities and any costs that will come across to the city if they were annexed. And we were able to sit down and ultimately compose the memorandum that all of you have, where Mr. Black has acknowledged that he is willing to do all of those fixes so that he can annex into the city and also receive city services. What my recommendation as staff would be to this body would be to approve his annexation pending a written and signed annexation agreement by this body. Does that work, council? Thank you. That would give Mr. Hunter an approval that he can use at the bank and for the BEQ. And it will give us the further direction to work with our legal team to draft something up that will make sure everything discussed in that memo is formalized and all of those needs are met so they can be annexed and receive city services. And he can become a wonderful community partner for housing and other future commercial and multifamily needs.
Yeah, this has been a pretty complicated process, and it's been through us a few times, and he's committed to the future of this possible annexation where upgrades, future developments, water rights, the water right issue, some DEQ cleanup, and I think that sometimes the process has been bumpy and long, but I think we're to the point now where we have a good working relationship where we're projecting 20, 30 years out, so thank you for your work.
Thank you.
What's where?
Councilman Stokes?
I had a quick question, Brock, and
Yes.
there was only one on here that I highlighted. It was about, Mr. Black will build and maintain a lift station if required, and it's the if required part. Is it gonna be us that determines that, or a third party, or Mr. Black?
I'm going to pump that to our public works director.
It'll be their design.
Okay.
That they're committing to, so it depends if the gravity works or not.
Okay.
So, but it will be their lift station and they will take care of it, and maintain it, just like Mountain Home RV did.
Okay,
In other words, we will not pay for it at all.
perfect.
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
Brock, just for clarification, I guess I'm confused what we're voting on tonight. It is just saying that this is the rough draft for the annexation agreement to be brought forward in the future.
So what I am recommending to city council is that you approve his annexation pending a signed and agreed upon annexation agreement between you and Mr. Black.
That all of these things are completely
Right.
adhered to, yes.
Okay. Mr. Mayor? Councilman Bundy? Does anyone have any further questions? Make a motion that we approve planning and zoning commission recommendation to approve the request by Cody Hunter Black. Excuse me, I did call you Mr. Hunter, I meant I'm looking there for Mr. Black, that's what I was thinking in my head. But for the annexation and zoning to C4 of the Meadows Bulldog Home Park located at 1075 Rear Base Road and adjacent parcel with conditions.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
All right, run down to item number 6. Item to move the consent agenda, there were none. Discussion and feedback on the proposed changes to Imagine Mountain Home program. This was a rough draft-ish, right? Okay. Any discussion, feedback, Councilman?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
Could you, Ms. Brock, do you mind just giving the council what this is for and why?
Summary?
Yeah,
Yeah.
summary.
So I was tasked months and months and months ago, before 2020, that we wanted to add a framework and guidelines to the Imagine Mountain Home program. As you know, it's a program we have for downtown to revitalize the built environment. And we wanted to make it so that not every approval had to go through this body, but that staff working together with the Chamber of Commerce would have the guidelines and we would be able to enforce those on our own to streamline things and make things better. So what I have provided you, the one with the hub building on it, these are the guidelines for exterior building improvements downtown, which has everything from providing sidewalk furniture to new signage to building facade changes. But one thing we also saw, and one thing that I was able to gather while visiting with downtown businesses, is a lot of them are also struggling with what I like to coin soft services, which is they're brand new building, they are brand new business owners, and their knowledge is limited with certain new contemporary business practices, like having a website, just business financing. And they are willing to learn, but don't necessarily have the means to. And to me, we can give someone money to make a pretty building, but if they need help with their internal business structure, a pretty building won't do anything for them. So I wanted to provide the same sort of service for soft services where they would produce a verified consultant, verified meaning whatever soft service they are pursuing, that we are able to verify that yes, you are receiving services from a finance person with the correct certifications, from a web designer that has certifications that's able to give you the best services, and we will help subsidize that cost the same way we would for a exterior improvement. I believe that what we are trying to do with the Imagine Mountain Home program is to specifically make downtown successful and to attract people to bring their businesses to downtown and give incentives so we have a downtown that doesn't only look amazing with all of the countless revitalization efforts we have put in, but also functions incredibly as individual businesses. And I think this helps with that. I think it's a good base. I was able to speak with some of you about it earlier. And there are some concerns such as, well, are we going to let people put in for these year after year and have the same people do it? Do we need to have certain mechanisms that make sure that we're not, giving someone all of this money year after year? And yes, there are certain safeguards that we are able to put in, but the direction I'm trying to research from, that I really want from you is, are these concepts found? As far as the soft services, is this something you want to pursue? If not, that's fine. It was just something that came to mind, and just general feedback, so when I come back to you, we can make a decision so that we can implement these and actually have the program functioning. Whereas right now we're not taking any applications for the program because we need to have these new changes implemented first. So I want to gather feedback so I can make final edits, where I will come to you for final decision and stamp of completeness to move forward.
Councilman Brennan?
Brock, I like what you've done here. This is a great package that you can just hand out to a new business owner or whatever and say, here it is, with maybe the, what do I call it, the city ordinance attached to it. And based on your comments and our conversation earlier, I think I have not read recently, because this has been a while in the making, but the ordinance, I think it should have an eligibility section in there, if it does not, which would spell out how often you're eligible, and even a brand new business that hasn't opened their doors yet, but they've got the loans and all that stuff, whatever. So I think you've done a great job with this. And clear up that eligibility, we're good to go for me.
I agree.
Councilman McCain?
No.
Alderman
Mayor.
Carter?
I agree.
Mayor,
Councilman Stokes?
budget, or Brock, what's the total budget right now that committee's working with?
The total budget right now is $5,000 that we have. And normally each applicant can receive up to $500. Other things that I did not represent in my packet for you was, I think that maybe it would be nice to have some discretion, because we're not using that full $5,000 every time. And to me, a successful program is utilizing all of the funds, but also having those users be able to produce results. So if we could have some discretion, well, maybe you can go up to $1,000, as long as you're willing to put up the 20-30%, which is needed. That would be a cool tool to have. I think that more than anything, if the council can have some willingness to test the waters with some of these new processes, especially during the first year, that's something that we would love to do. But if not, we can still operate with doing that $500 max, and I still think, and still bring you some good grant opportunities for our small businesses. So whatever
Brock,
you prefer.
in my opinion, is the city is invested in downtown. We have some money there, so I'd like to see it go up to even $2,000, $2,500. Given that the package is complete, the project is perfect, signed off on, and it really improves the community as a whole. I know that I'm only speaking for myself, so I'd like to see it 2,000, even 2,500.
Mr. Mayor? Councilman Mundy?
I had a question, and you've already addressed it to some extent. So we usually have been budgeting about $5,000, and we haven't necessarily always used it. My question was gonna be, if we expand this into soft services, which seems like a legitimate idea, would that perhaps cause us to run out of our 5,000 quicker? But it sounds like we have some room in there for some development. And I don't disagree with Brad But if you start to go to 2,000 or 2,500, you've eaten up your 5,000 really quick. So I think maybe the first time you stick with the 500. It sounds like there's good support for the soft services also, if I'm reading everybody right. So, but you know, in the future, because you know, the higher you give to a person, the more your overall budget. So I think 5's a pretty good number, even if we don't use it.
And what I'm hoping is with the soft services, that a lot of people will actually want to receive those services. Because it's just providing more value to those downtown. And hopefully, if this is approved, that we will be able to go forth and do good work. And this time next year, I'll be able to come back with a platinum report of we used all the monies, everyone's successful, and then you guys can make any changes you see fit.
Mr. Mayor, you'll give us some statistical data next year?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Yes. You know I'm very data oriented.
I know, Councilman Bundy.
Well, that kind of brings me to my second point here, so thank you, is with the physical exterior programs, it's easy to walk by and see. So that's why I'm really curious of your analysis of some of these soft services, how they help, what they were. And, cause I would hope that the primary focus continues to be the downtown exterior. And it's just kind of a personal thing for me, cause we're doing, you know, because we put, as Brad said, we've done a lot to improve our downtown look, and I think it's looking great. I'm excited for 8th Avenue, when it's gonna all be done, we can have our big party and celebrate the Air Force and all those kind of things, so, yeah, I appreciate the fact that you're gonna do a hard look and track this stuff.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stowe?
With the soft services, Brock, I'd like you to reach out to that small business development, people, do some lunch and learns with people, or even longer trainings. If you can even just schedule them one-on-one to visit with some of our businesses, that can really help them, and that might be free, so.
And that's something that we're planning on doing, and I did fail to mention that with the small services, that we have reached out to the small business, association, the SBA, and they have committed to, when someone comes in for soft services, that they'll do an informal interview with them at first to speak about their needs, so we can really realize that we definitely need this service, or maybe we should do this first. So we're really trying to reach out to our community partners to ensure that those monies that these businesses are wanting are used in the best possible way.
Councilman Kane?
I think with the soft serve, we're gonna find out that you're gonna go through that 5,000 without having to up it. So I don't think we need to look at upping it. If not upping it, we'll be upping it just to keep it at 500.
Sounds good.
Councilman Brennan?
And I don't know if this is exactly what Councilman Bundy and McCain are saying at all, but, my takeaway and my thought ahead of their comments was that I'd like to see some of the money at least guaranteed set aside for the, exterior improvement.
Okay.
So that not 100% of it's going to the soft services.
So would you
Oh, yeah.
envision a 50-50, or would it be more a 75-25? Or 60-40%? Just what is the ratio that this body would like to see?
80-20 for me.
I'd like to see a minimum, but maybe 70% go physical, and then we see what the other 30%, cause it might be all physical.
Could I argue for 60-40? And if it's all physical, great. Thank you, Councilman. 60-40. Thank you. So I will make those proposed changes, and then I will bring this back to you for your final sign off, and we'll go from there.
Mr. Brennan? Go ahead. Councilman Brennan?
With the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
The eligibility.
Is it ordinance or is it resolution?
With the eligibility. Well, it's not, we don't have an ordinance for this. It's kind of a informal program, which we have discretion to modify without actually going into our code.
Which needs
That's
some
where this is
requirements.
modified.
Yeah, we just put it through the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Councilman, Stokes, anything? No? Okay. Thanks, Brock. Rundown to discussion decision on recommendation from the Airport Advisory Committee to change Chapter 5 of the city ordinance to have the airport rules and regulations minimum standards be adopted by resolution.
Mayor,
Councilman
Rich, give us a little bit.
Just wait, Mayor, Council. So what you have here is, the first one is, right now we have all of our, everything is in ordinance. So to change things, you have to have your readings and everything has to be put into, published and all that. So that kind of, what we're doing is we just wanna minimize what's in, what is in, ordinance. That's basically that first page that you see, chapter 5, so instead of chapter 5 being 12 pages, it's now 1. And then, everything would be put into rules and, regulations and minimum standards that would be done by resolution. So, this is just kind of the draft for you to look at. We'll get everything finalized, put together, and then, bring that back forward to be able to pass it that way. So, but, there are other airports around that do that, just something that airport board, the airport committee brought up, that, it's kind of just get everything put in one spot, easier to do, and that's kind of what I think.
Okay. Councilman, you got any questions for Rich?
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
Rich, you're making, you made a couple comments about like it's easier to do and other people have done it this way. What's the real intent of resolution rather than, ordinance?
Really, it's just, Council Brennan, it's just really cleaning up the ordinance. I mean, I don't think we need to have the ordinance. I mean, ordinance is really kind of the law piece of what's going on. There's really no laws. I mean, we follow what the FAA is doing out there, so that's kind of what we're following in the most part and what these rules and regulations are doing. So it's just kind of cleaning up how things kind of work, and, instead of being, I don't know, I wanna say old fashioned, how something probably was in ordinance that way. It's just, no, I don't really mean it to make it easier. I mean, it would be easier, cause now we've actually moved everything, like different fees and things out of like water and wastewater. We've moved it out of doing it from ordinance in there, cause then you have to publish it. It has to go into everybody's books and get recorded and do all of that. So this would just be a little bit different.
But moving from ordinance to resolution does not take away the council's responsibility to let the community, give input, right?
No, it would still be.
So when you bring something to us for a change by resolution, the council will still hear it in a public meeting and give citizens opportunity to.
Yep, you would, in the consent agenda, that's where it would be, and you would just approve the consent agenda, forget about it.
Or pull it.
Or pull it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's, Mr. Mayor, it's not unlike where we have in our code where we say we are adopting the most recent version of the International Building Code. We don't actually have the entire International Building Code copied and pasted into our ordinances. We just say, I mean, so much of what governs the airport is gonna be outside of local or even state guidelines, it's gonna be federal.
Okay.
And so in order to stay ahead of it, if something changes with the FAA, you know, that'll be applicable to us too. So it's just I agree with the housekeeping measure to do that.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, so I guess we'll leave it as a draft and have the council get back with you, and then we'll make a decision. Councilman?
That's good. Yep.
Okay. So that was just discussion. We'll take out the decision. Discussion and decision on recommendation from the Airport Advisory Committee to adopt a fuel flowage fee as printed. Action item. So this one will most likely get decision.
Should've had it.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, yeah.
Think it'd be that easy.
Yeah, I thought we may have some, Mayor, Council, so the second part that we have for you is a flowage fee. That is something we had in discussions for quite a while. Our flowage fee that we have out with our current contractor is 8 cents, so we just wanted, if somebody else has something in there that's gonna bring fuel on, and they're going to take it out of a tank and put it into, something that we want to be able to charge. That makes sense also, and that's what this is, so we're just asking for a public hearing, so we can get this set.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes.
Rich, what are the flowage fees of airports similar to ours in size and operations?
Council, so, and, Council, they range from 10 cents to 5 cents, and just, they're kind of all over. Just depends on how much the airport wants to raise and if they want to sell fuel or not, and that's kind of where that.
Did we fall on the 8-cent number because, the contract with our current FBO?
That's basically where we brought that from.
So when would we be setting the?
Councilman Bundy.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bundy.
The one time you enforce the rule.
Little tap on the leg.
I forgot my, no, I'm just kidding. So when would we set the public hearing date for? In the motion, do we need to have the public hearing date?
Yeah, but we have a couple more public hearings we need to bring up at the end. Cause we'll need to do a public hearing for the fiber
say, direct the city clerk to have it set for a special meeting or public hearing. If it's gonna be a special meeting, and you guys wanna say, hey, I'm not around this day or whatever, then sure, by all means, but otherwise you leave the discretion of the city clerk to set an appropriate meeting, counting the days back, et cetera, et cetera.
What do Councilman?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Buddy.
so if I'm understanding you right, I just make a motion that we approve this to set a, what's the word with the date?
Set a public
Set a public hearing without the date specified yet.
Yeah, you don't have to, it's not like when you're continuing a public hearing and you do it to a date certain, that we're not in that realm.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Buddy.
I make a motion that we approve the recommendation from the Airport Advisory Board, and set a date for a public hearing on the flowage fee.
The motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Kane?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Thank you, Council.
We'll run down to item number 7, ordinances. Any? Hearing none, we'll run down to item number 8, budget presentations by civic groups. We'll run down to Historic Society.
This takes a little while.
We're buttering you guys up.
It's not right.
What did the rest of you guys bring?
I'll never eat a cake at a council meeting.
But you guys are just lucky I didn't bake them, so. That would have been Joe Albertson's. So anyway, we just appreciate everything that you guys do for us. We just kind of put a little notepad on there of what we did have done in the past. With COVID, we were pretty limited like everyone else. Just kind of wanted to, this year we're kind of hoping that we can do something like with the RV park to get them involved, for the history of Elmore County and stuff like that, try to work with that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, and then Debbie does a lot with the kids. So anyway, trying to do more with the kids, trying to get them involved with history. We're pretty limited with the building, the size of the building, stairs going in and out, that's kind of a tricky thing. But she does a lot of work, with the kids, trying to get more involved, trying to do last year. I mean, if you'll look on the thing, we did a live auction type of thing, then we did a Thanksgiving pies, and trying to just generate a little bit of income that what we could. So we do appreciate you guys, appreciate everything, and enjoy the cookies.
That's right.
Councilman Stokes.
When is your pie sale?
We're gonna do another one, we're gonna do it online again, we're not
Okay.
gonna, it's just, we have it in the summer and it's hot, and it seems that if we can get the word out, that seemed to work really well last year. And then it gives Debbie a lot of time to be able to prepare, so we don't have to have everything prepared on one day.
Yeah.
Especially when you have cream pies and things like that.
Absolutely.
So we can kind of stretch that out, and, but we'll take bids anytime, or we'll email you at that time.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Councilman Bundy.
I bid on 3 pies last summer. And they didn't bid high enough.
And
so
yes.
Let's learn, but you guys.
One more time and you would have got it, I'm sure you would have.
Okay. And you guys can correct me on these numbers, but in one of my other capacities, I did some work with these Carnegie libraries, because ours is a Carnegie library. And in the early 1900s, there were 12 of them built in Idaho. If my number's pretty close. There's 9 of them that are still standing, and 3 of them are still currently libraries. But about 5 or 6 of them are museums and other things like that. The big Carnegie Library in Boise has been purchased by the state. It's going to become part of the capital area with law school and other functions going on in there. So the history of the Carnegie Libraries is pretty cool, and we have one just right here next door.
Well, if you're an old dog like I am, you remember that when that was a
When it was a
library. So it truly was.
Yeah, I think Idaho Falls is one of the few that still, there's 2 or 3 of them, some of the bigger ones.
Right.
It's kind of a neat historical building, and thanks for what you guys do.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you guys and the additional funds and everything to be able to do maintenance and operations, repairs on that building too, cause it is old.
The one thing that we're currently doing is the front doors have had really bad weather deterioration to where the wood was actually getting pitted. So we're having the doors restored, and I learned a new word. It's called T-astrical. It broke, and that's the part that's in between the doors. So the wind last winter had gone through there because it broke off. We've got that replaced, and so right now they're being covered with like a verathane, and there's been 3 coats put on it. But it's really nice. He was able to get all those pits out of the wood, and it's original glass in the front door as well. So we've been able to get the front doors restored. The T-astrical is now fixed.
Good job. Good job, ladies.
And Mayor, Council, if I may on that, with Joe Forner did that, and he put that in by hand. He had to build that when I stopped over there and talked to him, because hopefully he didn't pay him by the hour. But it does.
It's a lot of cookies.
It is. But he did say that he hit the first few coats of drip, and he put it, that would just soak it in. Everything was nice. So, just thought I would mention that to you when I was talking to him about it.
Thank you guys for all your
Thank you.
support.
We'll have the senior citizens and Meals Wheel program.
Well, I didn't bring you any treats, so. Good evening, it's good to see you guys again, and you can pass those out. That's our budget, and, it's just about the same as last year because, kinda hard to tell and kinda hard to figure out a new budget, so. Glad to be here, and, we really appreciate all the help that you've given us, and, it's been important to see the mayor come and deliver meals. We're always glad to see him come, and thank you for doing that. And I think we call on Jean quite a bit too when we need help, and other people of the, from the city, and we help. We appreciate it. It's been a tough 15 months, I will say, just like for everybody else, because we had to close down. And, but we continued with our, home delivered meals, and then we started the curbside delivery. So, we did that, and we had about 15,000 Meals on Wheels delivered, home meals delivered, and about 6,000, with the curbside. And that went, fairly well. So, now we have, in May, we opened up the center again for meals. And that's the only thing that we're doing right now. And we had instructions, from Central District Health, exactly what we had to do. And so we follow. When you come into the senior center, you have to mask up, and unless you're eating or drinking, you still have to wear a mask. And we do social distancing, and our cooks, then they serve, you go through the line, but they serve, so you're not in there pulling the food out yourself. They're serving, and then, so that's working out well. But just like you guys, every time we go in there, they say, oh, well, I saw the governor said we don't have to wear masks, and you guys should get that over and over and over. And I said, no, this is what they told us we had to do, and that's what we will continue to do. People don't realize that we still have positive cases every week here, in Elmore County. So, and we certainly are a vulnerable population over there at the senior center. But hopefully, we will be able to start, doing some other things and getting more people in. It's been a tough year because we haven't been able to have any fundraisers or, those kind of things, just like everybody else, we have. So anyway, we'll continue to work at it, and like I say, we hope that you'll, think about us again in your budget, and we appreciate all the help that you've done for us, and, we're glad to have your help. So anyway, we're still gonna be around, and we're still gonna stay there as long as we can. Any questions?
All right, thanks, Connie.
Okay, you're welcome.
Have a great night.
Come and see us anytime.
I think I have, see you next week.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Alrighty, Arts Council.
Hello, Mayor Sykes, City Council. I'm always a little bit longer, but I'll try to cut it down as much as possible. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Chris DeVore, the Director of the Arts Council. Not sure, do we have some Arts Council representatives? I guess I'm doing alone tonight, but Mildred McNeil, the President, and the whole board sends their regards and their thanks. You know, I just want to do a quick overview of what we've been up to, as well as our financial position and plan and budget for the coming year. And our year starts in July, so this is always perfect timing for our season. We go July to June. So I gave you a kind of a extensive packet, so I'll just hit the highlights on that. Start out with our mission. You know, we've been an organization since 1977, and our mission as a 501c3 nonprofit has been to entertain, enrich, and educate the community by presenting and promoting varied artistic and cultural activities. And you know, that's live entertainment, that's in-person entertainment. So surprise, surprise, I'm the third organization to come up here and say it was a challenging year. But we wanted to keep to our mission, and so we did that in a couple of ways, because we had kind of a dual challenge of how to fulfill that mission and how to fund the organization through the year. So to fulfill our mission, really what ultimately happened is all the arts councils, all the local agencies got together on a Zoom and said, you know, how are we going to do this? You know, all of Northwest, and it was, you know, 80 presenters and a lot of artists and so forth, and we discussed how can we do this? How can we do this in small towns and big cities and so forth? And we came up with a plan about partnering with each other, and if anyone was doing something live, because like I would say, Mountain Home, we can't just set up a live Facebook event, pop up, and deal with all that we would have to, and we can't compete with Netflix and, you know, video games, because we know our students, you know, well, I have 3 of them in my house. They were getting their work done and going straight to those things. So, and we tried some things right off the bat, and honestly, we had mixed results. You know, sometimes it was a couple people, sometimes it was a speaker from CSI that had a bunch of people, and we'd get all excited and do 3 more, and then it would go down. So we started to kind of figure it out, and I wanted to talk just a few highlights in each of our areas. You know, it's in creative industry, so we got creative. What we found is that through partnerships and through value-added programming, such as some interaction with the actors, some interaction with the artists, something that set it apart, then it wasn't just like, okay, you can get on YouTube and watch it. You know, maybe afterwards you could talk with the artist and students could have questions and so forth. So in the performing area, Shakespeareans did a Hamlet production for the high school that was was screened by over 200 students, and they were able to do question and answer. And also, it was a Zoom production, so none of the actors were in the same room while they were doing it. And so it was very creative, and it kind of gave the feedback was it gave hope to some of the students, like, oh, we can be creative, oh, we can have fun, oh, we can still do this. So that was very well received. Visual arts, we kept busy with individual projects, partnered with the city and the chamber on those little libraries. We've got 4 out, and Parks and Rec as well. And then we have 5 more being worked on. So we were able to do some of those projects with visual arts, even though we weren't able to do the last year, sadly, the community canvas, but we found other ways. Literary, we were able to do a literary journal. That was the one thing that was very successful. Like we said, hey, what are you writing during the pandemic? And a lot of writers were very active. So actually we were worried about that, and that was probably our most successful endeavor during that time, because people really want, and in fact, we're continuing to get that writing in for next year. We'll see that what people produced during the pandemic. So then on the financial side, we received support. We wrote a lot of grants during this time, but we also were reasonable about what our share should be as a small community. We didn't try to like stockpile funds, but we did take advantage of every opportunity that we had, from the PPP program, the Idaho Rebounds, and the Idaho Commission on the Arts, and the Idaho Humanities Council had CARES Act money that they could pass down to the local level. So we took advantage of all those opportunities, but stayed in discussion with them. Here's what we need it for. We don't have a venue, so we don't need rent. You know, we discussed all that with them. But as I'll say further on in here, it helps us be ready for next season and to be able to jump into it without like going, oh no, we only brought in this much money. As you can see, we brought in about half the money we brought in past years, but we're ready with that money to go forward, and we're optimistic about that. So speaking of this upcoming season, so I'm sure you guys are seeing, just like me, I mean, all the community canvas going up around town, and I'm very excited for the reveal on July 4th and the designation. Thank you, Brock, of Mural Capital of Idaho. That's so special for us, and for the artists, you know, they really are excited to be a part of this, and it's starting to, I feel like anyway, it's starting to be a little bit of an identity of Mountain Home, and that's really great because artists have worked very, very hard on that, and so forth. We've expanded the summer concert series. Hopefully you've seen the posters around, and so what we did is we moved to 5 dates. We were 5 dates 2 years ago, but we had Shakespeare in the Park. We broke Shakespeare in the Park to a separate. We feel like it wasn't really fitting there, but we kept with the 5 dates. So we're excited about that. Again, the community has just stepped up too. They said, hey, you might need a little extra money this year. Hey, those summer concerts, we like that. So we got some extra money in that way to expand this with confidence. Trying to hit a lot of genres, not just the bands that we know everybody would enjoy, but maybe a genre that might push some audience members to, learn a little bit about, especially the younger audience, where their music comes from, the roots of that, American roots. So we've got, jazz duo, cabaret. We've got Green Mountain Smoke's going to be more like a classic rock. My kids say that's 90s music, but this is what I consider, like 60s, 70s maybe. Hill Folk Noir. Love that we're getting, Junker Dash, exactly. Love that we're getting them. Probably, if they were full up with all these dates, we wouldn't get a band of watch their music videos. You get excited for that one.
So that's my favorite band. I follow them around for reasons.
Well, right here in hometown. Yeah, and I was very excited about that too. Buddy DeVore and the Faded Cowboys. Not sure if we're related now. I don't know if we have nepotism there, but maybe, because I'm hoping that we're related. But country band, and then Frim Fram 4 is going to be. I booked them last year because they were going to be our 20s band. Celebrate the 20s with 20s music. But I guess we're celebrating the 20s in 2021. So, but very excited about all those bands. Probably took a little too much time, but I'm excited about that lineup. I think we're going to have a great time. And as I said, Shakespeare in the Park, we've got planned for August, and it's looking like August 14th, but we'll see there. And they're going to do a Midsummer Night's Dream, so very excited about that as well. Oh, it won't be August 14th?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Beer festival.
It's Beer Festival then?
August 14th.
Oh, okay. Well, it won't be August 14th. No.
Festival.
That's interesting, because I booked it for Parks and Rec, but.
Why are you hiding, Darcy?
All right, my bad. Yeah.
Research that for you,
Yeah, Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, because everybody would have to be quiet to hear the Shakespeare, Maybe a band would have worked. All right.
We'll have mead.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that update. So we got some work to do on that one. We've also just, we've got an ambitious season booked. We've got Missoula Children's Theater, Community Variety Show, Cello Bop, which is 500 years of the cello. Comes out of a TED Talk for Columbia University. This guy's fantastic, Gideon Freudman. Molly and the Mine Shaft, and I mentioned, as you guys know, these groups will perform for the schools and the community. Molly and the Mine Shaft, I'm very excited. It's a 7-piece bluegrass band with world champion fiddlers in the band. They won Weezer fiddling contest the last couple years. Usually we can't get a band that big because of venue issues, and they're like, we'll bring everything. And I'm like, this is the right fit. So if you bring everything, we'll provide a space. So very excited about that. So as you can see, our budget, we actually upped it a little bit. It's $58,774.42. You might see that we forecast a $2,500 loss, but that's just a year-to-year picture. We have funds to cover that from the present year. So we just appreciate your support. We just love Mountain Home. As you know, Brad could have probably done my presentation, I think, from what he said at the beginning, but you know, what I just want to say is please come to, if there's arts related, if there's anything community wise that we can partner with, please come to, feel like we're a resource to say, hey, maybe the Arts Council has somebody that can help out with that. If I can't do it, I can figure out the right person usually, so. Yeah, I think that's it.
Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Snow?
I have one question, Chris. You guys do a lot of stuff in Carl Miller Park. You're doing the concerts, the plays, all this art stuff. Do you have a voice at the table for the band shell location, or does the Arts Council?
Well, you weren't in the band. when we drove around.
I missed
I
the
don't
band
think so.
It was
Yeah.
rainy that day, so
Yeah.
you had to jump in the van with us.
Yes. And,
Okay, good.
And we got some feedback. It was an intimidating band.
The gold one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan?
I was gonna ask the same thing. The band shell, we're talking the amphitheater in Carmel Park is what you're talking about. Okay, great. And I had a second thing. What was it? Oh, can we, Mayor, can we advertise these events on our new board? 'Cause it's not a business, or I don't know how we stand on that, but it's all about community events.
Community.
Right, so we're gonna have that discussion and then try to get you to council, like what do we can and can't put on there? So obviously business is probably no bueno, but if it is something for the entire community, then that's great, cause we don't want, what was the last one we,
Trying to draft a policy.
yeah, that way it's black and white.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's sitting up here, this is the policy.
Right, it's hard because we've been approached with a lot of organizations that are great events, but they do cost the citizens money to enter those events. So then the executive leadership team was talking about, well, if it's free to the entire community, then do maybe advertise those at this point.
Sure.
Or we want to bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
For the information.
Thank you, Chris. I apologize, I'm gonna be running right out, because as you might have noticed, I'm right in the middle of coaching, so I'm gonna run back to the game.
Alrighty, thanks Chris.
Yep.
Treasure Valley Transit?
Thank you, Mayor Sykes, members of the City Council, for the opportunity to present my information in my budget tonight. Transportation was also affected greatly by the pandemic, but one thing I'd like to note is we did not alter our service. We kept it going 100%. We knew the ridership would be down, but we also knew that those that needed it to get to stores, to get to services, to get to medical appointments. So our ridership for during this time was 5,565, and that was our total service. The city route was 3,271. So we've seen that as a overall 34% cut in ridership. But again, it was definitely needed, and we heard that. Our system as a whole, we saw our Medicaid transportation, which we know subsidizes a lot of our rural programs, was pretty well decimated during the pandemic. It still has not come back. We're about 60% of normal. So our revenues, you know, that have helped us assist the rural programs have been hit. But what I want to say is the good news is I've worked very closely with the Idaho Transportation Department in getting some CARES Act funding to assist us to remain fare-free. So if you'll notice in your budget, it's $3,500 less than I asked for last year, and that's why. I also want to note that I went to Elmer County on June 11th. And once again, every year, I give my very passionate plea for funding, and I, every year, think I'm going to be successful. But I did state that it's important that they fund the service, and again, I'm hopeful. So we shall see what happens. There was some question and about, that was asked of me a year ago, coming into this meeting, when we were funded last year, that there was a potential cut in funding, as well as asking if county ridership would pay a fare when city ridership was not. The only problem with that is on the federal level. Because we are funded by federal grants, the majority of the service, we cannot have different fares based on, you know, where somebody might live, in the essence that they ride the same service. So there was a challenge there when I looked into that. I do want to note that this last year, we did enhanced cleaning, we installed plexiglass barrier on the bus, and we've got enough PPE right now to last multiple years, probably 25 years into the future. So that is definitely not a concern. I also wanted to note too that ITD, through CARES Act funding that they've received, are going to implement a new intelligent transportation, you know, services technology on board our buses. And this is at no cost to us. Now, we've always done, it's even embarrassing to say, everything we do is old school, pen and paper, check on, check off when they get on board. Well, now we're gonna have a new technology that will automatically give us all the statistics and help us greatly. So we're looking forward to having that technology on all of our service, and that's at no cost to TVT, which is really good. ITD is also very interested in increasing ridership. We are still under a federal mask mandate until September 13th. Some passengers, I don't know here if it's a problem, but in some areas, they won't ride the bus if they have to wear the mask. That's their choice, but we want our ridership. So ITD is gonna do public service announcements. They've been working on this for a while. They're hoping to get them out in the fall. So, and that's supposed to be a statewide push, which would help the community of Mountain Home as well as our other services throughout the state. So I'd like to note that. And then I'd also like to note that we have met with the base, because not this past year, well, it was actually in effect, they reduced their passes. So the Department of Defense decided that unless you were military, they would not pay for the military pass. So that reduced some of the pass, or the transportation on the base. So we had a meeting with the base, very nice young man. He was very supportive of the bus service. Then he got deployed somewhere else. So we're back to square one. So we're not seeing a lot of funding through that program at all. So again, it's a challenging time for us, but we feel we're doing the best we can within the resources that we have. And I hope you fund to the level that I've asked, because we're still gonna have to figure out how to come up with any shortfalls that were paid for through our other programs.
Really quick, I had a meeting today in Boise, and I know Idaho is one of, what, 2 states that doesn't do transportation, right?
Correct.
Was that Missouri or something is the other one? Either way, the supposedly bipartisan infrastructure framework stuff, do you guys foresee any funding out of that? You know, there's electric buses, transit, passenger, freight rails, public transit, a $49 billion, $7.75 billion for, and then the reconnecting. Does Idaho, will they be able to get that money for transportation?
I think it won't be for operations. We're always looking for help with operations, for help even with the CARES Act funding. We had hoped it would help with local match. That's what everybody wanted. No. ITD said they wanted to hold out for capital. So in the sense that potential electric buses, that's the big push, but when you're in small rural communities, you don't have the infrastructure to do it.
Right.
You know, so that's a challenge. We'll see what comes to us. And I'm always on the door of ITD and also FTA. But I will say, in working with FTA right now, they normally do 200 grants a year in a 3-state area. They're doing hundreds due to the CARES Act funding. So even things we have asked for consideration is way down the pipeline. So as far as the infrastructure bill, we're anticipating, almost like the ARA back in 2008, TVT received 8 buses and 4 vans then. If we can receive capital, that would be incredible for us, and that may have where we'd have a brand new fleet, and we wouldn't have to have spare buses that are practically on the downside, toward out of service, you know, so we're hoping, but my thought is it will go to capital.
I'm sorry.
I was hoping you could update the council on the status of our buses. I know the last couple of years we've given some pretty big checks for buses.
Yes.
So where are we at with those?
We've got our new bus, and it is nice. And it was one of 7 that we got the company-wide, and Mountain Home got it because it was matched. So that was the key. So that's the new bus, then we have the backup bus, and then we go that way for the service. So we're in good standing right now, but we'd always like, and I will say, if the infrastructure comes, it'll be a while. It won't be right away, so hopefully that will maintain a good fleet up here. I'd also like to see a van, if we could get a smaller van up here for additional services. The new thing in public transit is called on-demand microtransit, and that's something that we're looking at in regard to the future. That might be beneficial up here, especially as we get our new software. So I will bring that to you next year.
So when did this brand new bus hit the Mountain Home streets?
I believe it was last October, I believe.
Okay. And what's the quality of the backup bus? Which was our primary, right? They didn't
Right.
take one away?
Oh no, it stays here as the backup bus. And then the one that was prior to that one, which was white, was literally totaled.
Right.
You know, so that's where I'd like another bus that would be better, that we don't have to tow, because usually our buses last a long time. And it was a real shame that the newer bus was the one that got totaled.
But our backup bus is not the one on the edge of being placed permanently out of service.
Not yet. It's,
What's the-
let me look at that for you, let me get back with the exact information on that.
Would you
I
please?
can send that to you tomorrow and let you know. But whenever we do order buses, it usually takes 1 to 2 years, because we had this one in the pipeline for 3 years. So it's never a short turnaround.
Anything else, Counselor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Final comments, item number 9. Yeah, Council, I went to Boise and met with the Treasure Valley, partnership today, and Kathy from Boise, the city of Boise gave a pretty good synopsis. She's gonna send me her slideshows for the ARP funding. The state of Idaho got 1.9 billion, and that thanks to the JFAC, I guess. They put those ARP funding lines in JFAC. We're hopefully be able to see some of that funding. It's gotta be obligated by, you have to have it obligated by December 31st, 2024, and have to be spent by December 31st, 2026. And it can go to 4 different things. It can go for the COVID emergencies, revenue issues or losses, investment in water, wastewater, broadband, and appreciation pay for frontline workers, but no back pay is what they were kind of trying to tell us today. And then a lot of it was kind of based on census data as well. But I'll get you those slideshows just so you guys have that, and so you guys can look at it. And then this one's supposed to go or come out, and this was $579 billion for the entire bipartisan infrastructure framework, and it's got public transit at $49 billion, electric buses at $7.5 billion, airports, $25 billion. These are all with Bs, so maybe we'll see some of that funding next year. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of a quick synopsis of that group today. Councilman, got anything else?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
I had kind of a weird off-the-wall question. I realized that we have a checking account with Wells Fargo. Is their closure having any impact on our city workers getting any funds or paying bills or anything weird like that?
Councilman Stokes, we haven't had any complaints.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Councilman, got anything else? All right. Meeting adjourned.
Do we want to pick a date for our special meeting? Or do you want me,
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
I'd like to make a motion that TIF, at her discretion,
Okay.
makes a special date
Okay,
for the
I'm
closure
good with
fees.
I'll make it, don't drive, but we got going. She better email some dates.
I'll